Kellyanne Conway is a Fox News contributor and host of the Fox Nation show Here's the Deal with Kellyanne. Kellyanne, here's some sound from the president's news conference. Let's listen.
Our military is working. I'm following the advice of my commander-in-chief, the chief of staff of the military. Can you name me somebody who's gotten more major piece of legislation passed in 3.5 years? I created 2,000 jobs just last week. Today, I asked our NATO allies that we bring on the group from the South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Australia. I already mentioned Australia.
Does Joe Biden survive, or what's it going to look like tomorrow?
Sure, I think he does survive. They've got some ballot access issues about removing him involuntarily. I don't think people still have confidence in Kamala's competence enough to think that she could have hosted the NATO Summit this week without us laughing, that she could be standing there and having a press conference for an hour. Jesse, so she's still job security. I will say there are a couple of these donors out there now trying to vet Josh Shapiro. They dream of a Kamala Harris, Josh Shapiro, the new governor of Pennsylvania ticket, because he's been solid on Israel. They think they could take Pennsylvania off the map. We don't know if he's an Eagles fan, but I know Jill Biden does get booed when she shows up at the link. But seriously speaking, Joe Biden, he tempted everybody with a couple of things. When he said, if my staff comes to me and says I can't win it, so everybody's going to be shoving these polls in front of him, but he also says he doesn't believe the polls except the ones of likely voters that show he's ahead. Here's what I think of the Democrats right now. When it comes to Joe Biden, the Democrats' concern is political, not medical. Their concern about him is electoral, not moral. None of them are out there saying, I love this man, I want him to step aside, he needs medical intervention. They're saying, oh, he's going to cost us the White House and the House and the Senate. Here comes Trump back because of Joe Biden. So I think he hears their motives and says, the heck with you. I ran for president 3 times in 2 different centuries. I finally got the breast ring. I got rid of Donald Trump, and I'm going to stick with it. And he's daring them. The one thing he said where I think he gives Trump a huge opening, in addition to the gaffes that you've covered, is when he says Donald Trump didn't have foreign policy as a strong suit. That's just wrong. People want that peace through strength from Trump back. The ISIS caliphate gone. North Korea not shooting off its nukes. Soleimani and Baghdadi, smithereens, pals. The trade deals, China capitulating to Trump on trade and fentanyl restrictions. So we want that foreign policy back. It turns out Vladimir Putin doesn't fear Joe Biden. He annexes sovereign nations, Crimea 2014, or invades sovereign nations, Ukraine 2022, when Joe Biden is in the White House.
Right. Kellyanne, how much pain can Joe Biden withstand? What's his pain threshold? You obviously have Clooney. He was the puppet for Barack. You have Clinton's team eviscerating him on cable. You have donors talking. You have his own staff leaking. You hear him scold his staff a little bit for talking too much.
Yes.
How much is it going to take? I mean, is this guy that pain tolerant that he can withstand this type of beating from now until the convention?
It may be pain tolerance, Jesse. I think it's a little bit of arrogance, also an ego. Here's a guy who was passed over by his boss, Barack Obama, in 2016. Barack Obama endorsed Hillary, and Hillary lost to Trump. Here's a guy who was running in 1987 until he was doing something that no one in the Labor Party in Britain did, plagiarizing Neil Kinnock of the Labor Party, had to leave, ran on his own in 2008. So this is somebody who's always been, I think, passed over and underestimated, and he feels like he's finally there. And listen, I worked there for 4 years. Once you're there, you want to stay there, and you do want to complete the job, but you're daring everybody else to go against the will of the voter. The last thing I'll say is the people who are bellyaching about this publicly and will actually put their name on the record, Jesse, what power do they truly have to displace Joe Biden? And one last thing. Nancy Pelosi is 84. Jim Clyburn will be 84 next week. Steny Hoyer is 85. Dick Durbin turns 80 in November. If we're going to start getting rid of the octogenarian, I think they've got to worry about that. They're probably thinking really carefully about that. So I think he stays.
Yeah, but they're not about to lose a national election, Kellyanne, and apparently the Democrats just can't take one loss. They can't lose one election. One election is unacceptable for the Democrats. They can't just work harder in 2028. They cannot lose ever. And that's what this is about. They have to rip the rules up and they have to pull a switcheroo and disenfranchise all of these people who voted for Joe Biden in the primary, and they have to change all the lawn signs, and that's really, really complicated. And they're willing to do it, Kellyanne. They're willing to do it. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thanks, Jesse.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.